If you are a filmmaker wanting to make your first feature film, wanting to learn how to raise money to make more films, you have come to the right place. Our podcast, The Filmmaker's Life, is about building a career in the film industry. And I always like to focus on a filmmaker's first feature, on their early days, how they got started, so that you all can learn as much as possible from the way they did it. Now, I do think that everybody's journey is completely unique, so there is that. But whatever nuggets you can glean, we talk about the business of film and the money side of things. So today I am looking forward to introducing you to one of my fabulous clients, Michael Wayne. And we worked together a while back, and he now has a film in distribution. You're going to hear all about it. But I am going to start way at the beginning. And I wonder, Michael, when was it that you first thought, oh, you know what? I'm a filmmaker?
Actually, when I was young, that's a good question. I think I was in high school. There was a class being offered at a 8-week class at a local community college on filmmaking. I think we were using Super 8 cameras, and my folks paid for it. I did
I
it.
started on Super 8.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, wow. I love Super 8.
yeah. Yeah. I forget, but we had little handheld cameras and did some stuff, and yeah. So
That's
that
right. That's right. I loved Super 8 and cutting the film and those 3-minute reels. Uh
yeah.
that I loved Super 8.
Uh-huh.
Super 8. So you took that class and
Yeah. So it's been a kind of an in and out I don't know, career path for me because I went to college and I actually majored in journalism, did some film,
really?
did some theater, film, but writing and writing was also what I was very interested in. I ran my college paper and just continued forward with that. And I also got interested in the field of medicine, holistic medicine, Chinese medicine. So I was like juggling all of it. Um, and all those interests. And I worked as a journalist. I did some Chinese medicine and was doing some film too. And yeah, then I got involved in the jump ahead a few years, the Woodstock 1994 concert, the 25th anniversary, and I got to meet the promoters of it, who were the original promoters, and I was working at making a documentary on it. There was a lot of good, bad, and ugly involved in that, and I hooked up with some filmmakers who had connection to had a production company with HBO, and we had everything set and they went to HBO to raise the money, and HBO said, "Well, we are owned by Warner, and Warner owns the rights to Woodstock because they bought the rights back when the film first, back at the original concert." And he said, "We can't fund something that's going to be critical of this whole thing," and so that fell apart. So I guess that's a story of like I was talking with Emily before, and she was talking about a film she was trying to make and fell apart with COVID. So lots of filmmakers have those stories of things that they think are happening and fall apart. Um, so things progressed. Talking about Super 8, I actually made a narrative feature film on Super 8. There,
No, you did not.
there was a company at that time,
Oh my
it
God.
was the early 90s, promoting, they had a technology like double sound, Super 8, and then converted to video because this was the time like
Right,
direct
right,
video films were being made. So I said, okay, this sounds good. And I got the equipment, just using Super 8 cameras with the short film reel.
right.
Keep changing film.
Wow.
And yeah, then shot the film and converted to video or did no, I did the
How
edit.
many minutes was it?
It was like 100 minutes. It was like a romantic comedy.
Oh
Uh,
my God. Using 3-minute reels?
yeah, I think, yeah.
Wow. I
That,
think there might have been larger reels,
yeah, I
but
think
but I
so.
never saw such a thing.
The cameras were a little more bigger. This is a
Okay.
while ago now. I edited it on film.
And you
Then,
said it had double sound, so it was like
yeah,
on both
we used a double
sides.
sound system.
Was it, it did have a sound stripe on one side and on the other? Was that it?
It may
Wow.
have, but we didn't record
I
sound.
can't imagine you could ever forget anything about that, Michael, given that you did all that work, because that's unbelievable.
No, I mean we recorded sound separately, so
Oh, I see. I see.
maybe it was we shut off the sound in the
Uh-huh.
cameras we were
Uh-huh.
recording on.
Uh-huh.
And edited on film, and then we converted it to video. There was no digital video or any of that, but did final edits in video, I think,
Mm.
and then yeah, released it on video. And
Mm.
yeah, I learned that shooting a feature film on Super 8 has lots of production quality limitations. So I
But
think that
still, I have to say that is really impressive, Michael. That is
yeah,
really impressive.
yeah, I just got it in my head. I read about it. I said, yeah. And they had somebody who was successful who made a horror film, so like a genre film like that,
Uh-huh.
is has an easier chance than a romantic comedy. So,
Well, part of what I teach as sort of a foundation is if you're making a micro budget film, comedy is just not the way to go. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
most filmmakers wouldn't possibly know that
Uh-huh.
before they make their first feature. Most first-time feature filmmakers want to make a drama or a comedy, neither of
Uh-huh.
which are sellable.
Yeah. Yeah, some get away with like Woody Allen, I mean, he's made many comedies, but his first comedy film was I think it was What's Up, Tiger Lily, where he just took an old Japanese film and dubbed it in. Um, so, some people get away with it. So anyway, I did that and then yeah, then I took a break because I went to back to school for studying acupuncture Chinese medicine. And then I was practicing writing books and then doing media again. I did an interview series where we actually did a really high quality interview series where we went live with the person with a 3 camera shoot and posting all these videos of some really high quality people. We called it interviews with the leading edge. So we
Mm.
did that. Then I took all those interviews and made a feature documentary from that. Um, then I wrote another book that came out in 2022, which was the genesis of this film that I just created recently, How to Save Democracy, the documentary film.
What was that feature film that you just kind of skated over?
Oh, that was called On the Path to Strawberry Fields.
Mm.
So, I've always been someone deeply involved in social change. And so, as I said, all the people I interviewed for the series, Interviews with the Leading Edge, were people in that field, either creating social change or transformation, personal and collective transformation. So they had a lot of good things to say. And I just felt I want to create something. So on the path to Strawberry Fields, the title, the Strawberry Fields is in the title is the Strawberry Fields that's in Central Park in New York, the memorial to John Lennon, and in the middle where it says Imagine for anybody who's been there.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it to me it's like a sacred site. And
Right.
so any time of year, if you go there, there are people congregated there and there's musicians playing.
Uh-huh.
It's really quite a place.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was about, peace, the imagination, moral imagination, and yeah, so.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that reminds me of when you and I started working together. Uh, when I hear you talk about those topics, when I first met you, and you had been on this path of social change for a very, very, very long time. And we were coming up to the 2024 elections, and you
Mm,
were very clear that you wanted to do something that would help turn the tide.
mhm,
And so I remember our early conversations talking about this film. Let's show the trailer that Emily has put together, and people will have a bit of an idea of what it's about.
Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now.
The base of the Republican Party now does not believe in elections or democracy.
The problems of our democracy predate Donald Trump, and they will go on long after he's gone from the political scene.
There has to be an understanding that far too many people are afraid. They are fearful.
We have problems, obviously. There would not be so many discontented people in the country if we didn't have problems. But they're not being articulated as problems in a way that would allow us to solve them.
And we believe a truly just democracy is a democracy where it's people first, and not billionaires and not corporate money, flooding our electoral system.
There were 13 billionaires in 1980, and now there are 783. So there was an explosion of money rushing to the top. And at the same time, the standard of living of the average worker stalled and actually went down a little bit. So the gap became obscene.
Our system has been broken. It's not that the system simply is broken. It's that it has been broken intentionally by those who wish to seek and hold power with a minority of votes.
You see something that is not right, not just, not fair, you have a moral obligation to say something, to do something. Our children and their children will ask us, what did you do? What did you say?
People are eager for a more just egalitarian democracy. And so I think we are very close, and we just need to keep fighting.
And when I travel the country talking to voters about their frustrations about democracy, although people are fed up with the current state of politics, people still believe in something better.
The roots of modern democracy are indigenous.
Without a sense of the sacred in the human, we can't sustain a democracy.
Wow. Even the trailer is very, very moving, I find.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I find the trailer very moving, especially John Lewis. Ooh, I'm all choked up.
Yeah.
I've seen it multiple times, but especially the one lady who says, "We're close. We just have to keep going." Because it doesn't feel as if we're close.
Yeah.
But I appreciated that she said we're close. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's just motivating and inspiring, to hear people who are really on the ground working, and what they're seeing and what they're doing and what they're working on. And for them to say we're close. I found that really.
Yeah, I did want to end the film on a hopeful note. I mean, that's not the final um, person speaking at the end of the film, but the last parts of the film are very hopeful, and I think it's a good antidote for our difficult times right now that we're in.
Yeah, yeah. So, as I said, I remember when we started working on this project, and one of my questions to you was, who are you making this film for? You remember those conversations?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, yeah. Who is this film for? And what I remember talking about was, is this film made for somebody who in general, you know, generally doesn't, is just a generalist, or is it for somebody like me who watches politics and really, really attempts to keep up with what's happening? And you told me what?
Oh, I can't remember exact words, but it's really it's for anyone who's concerned about what's going on with democracy. So yeah, the film was made last year before election results were even known, but we saw so much going on. It was obvious there was a real problem in this country, and so the film is made not only for, I don't want to use the word political junkies, but just people immersed in the political realm, but anybody also who is immersed in what's going on financially or economically, and also people who are hurting financially. And so I wanted to explain how we got to this point, um, in ways that people could understand. And the film, when you and I first were talking last year, Joanne, I was, we talked about getting the film out before the election, and that didn't happen. Um, but it's probably better that it didn't come out before the election, because my film is not so much about how horrible, this is my opinion, that a lot of people share, how horrible Trump is, and how he's really putting a sledgehammer to democracy. Well, it is that, but it's even more so the conditions that created Trump, because as you saw in the trailer, the person said the problems with democracy predate Trump and will go on long after he's gone.
Absolutely.
So people need to understand that, and also what is it that binds us? What is our common bond? What is our commonality? Because we're really being so torn apart with the strife that's going on. And it's really tearing things apart.
As you were making the film and as you were speaking to these real experts, I mean, you collected real experts. That's why I feel as though your film is for political junkies. It's perfectly available for people who are not, who don't know anything. But the level of the expertise that you were able to bring to the table to come to the film, was there anything that you learned from them as you were making the film that you didn't know about before?
Yeah, I learned a lot. I mean, I'll start with the one woman who's at the end, Michelle Shenandoah, who in the clip says the roots of democracy are indigenous.
Goodness, yeah.
She talked at length about that, because she's a member of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which is, in the West we call it the Iroquois, and they were their constitution is what inspired the U.S. Constitution, and theirs was a constitution based on equality, caring for one another, whether you were connected. She talked about clan family, and that whether you were blood family or not, our responsibilities to one another. And also that all decisions were made with the future generations in mind. Um, and so it was such an important thing that I really wanted to have that as one of the underlying themes, a through line in the film is is that reality that we are so as a society now in the US, um, we are so far removed from that kind of ideal of taking care of one another, of making sure the least of us are also taken care of, and instead there's just cruelty. So there was that Marilyn Robinson who is in the trailer. She's one of the world's. I was really excited that she agreed to be interviewed because she's one of the world's most acclaimed writers. She's American, but it's won the Pulitzer Prize, many awards. But
Wow.
she also brought. We went to her house to interview her, and it was like being in the presence of a holy woman, and she talked about the sense at the very end. The last thing in the clip is, without a sense of the sacred, democracy can't survive. She really talked about this sense of the sacred and greed that's overtaken us. So she really gave it also that human soulful level. Um, so there were those.
So when you say you felt as though you were in the presence of a holy woman, you mean that that's how she comes across? She comes across as this deeply spiritual person? Is that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's really a very special person. So that was it was an honor to be in her presence. Um, and so just understanding that, the importance of that through line. So yeah, I learned a lot from a lot of the people,
Mm,
and it was my part as the interviewer to kind of get out of the way of just ask questions and get out of the way and dialogue, but make sure I was letting them shine. Hold on a second, my cat needs to go out. Wow, that's sorry.
Um, so I think this is a really valuable thing for documentary filmmakers to think about. So how is it that you were able to reach out and land interviews with these very high level people? How were you able to do that?
Yeah, it seemed like everything came together really flowed easily in certain ways. I mean, I made a list of a wish list of people I'd like to interview, and then I just was finding their contact info, and I'd reach out. These days, it's not too hard to find contact information for people. So I'd reach out by email, which makes it also easy as opposed to calling.
Right.
Email them. And my response levels were anything from no response to an assistant saying, oh, they're busy, to yes, I'm interested, or I could be interested. Let's have a conversation, mostly Zoom or phone. Um, or or an interview subject would refer me to another one like David Dayen, who's in the clip, who's the executive editor of the American Prospect, referred me to Jesse Eisinger from ProPublica. Um,
Mm.
they're friends, and so yeah, and I even said to one or more of them that it's the people who I cold called. A few of them I had connections to, but the people I cold email, who said yes, and I thanked them, and I after the interview, and I said, you know, I could have been these days. It's very easy for someone to have a malicious agenda, come in there, pretend something to get them to say things and take it out of context.
Ah, yeah.
And the response was, well, I would have been able to, if I would have been being tricked, I would have been able to just set the record straight. So,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
but yeah, so that
That's
that
great. So no, I think that's very inspiring. And I just want to draw attention to that because I think that a lot of times documentary filmmakers don't realize, they can radically up level their film by up-leveling the people that they're speaking to. I have a client who spent 2 years landing an interview with Deb Haaland. He's a New Mexico filmmaker. And I guess at the beginning of the 2 years, she was the Secretary of State under Joe Biden. Then once that was over, she is now running for governor in the state of New Mexico. And she was just always busy, 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 busy. And then finally, after 2 years, he got that interview. But that's a way to really up-level your film, is to have really high-level people on. And you did a fantastic job of that. Just fantastic.
Yeah, as I said, it came together, and even after we officially ended shooting production, I had one person who I emailed back in April got back to me in August. We finished in early August. Got back to me after we finished shooting to say, "Oh, I'd be in." So it was many months later, but she lived in Finland, so I just did it by Zoom anyway.
Right, right,
And
right.
then right after the election, there's a British journalist who writes for The Guardian, George Monbiot. He wrote a really excellent and insightful piece in The Guardian about the election, the American election that just happened. And so I reached out to him. I just went on his website, his email address, and said, "Oh, would you be interested in being interviewed?" And his assistant got back to me and said, first I get back the automated reply saying, "We get so many messages, we try to read them, we don't get back to everybody." But his assistant got back to me and said, "Oh, this is something George might be interested in." And so I had back and forth with her, and we set a time, and I interviewed George also by Zoom, um, which is another great thing that it can don't have to fly to Finland or England. I have they're not in the coming in the trailer because I thought, oh, the optics aren't as nice. But I put on there with George and Anu, the woman from Finland. I just put in the upper right corner, recorded on Zoom. I thought it was clear, but I had some independent viewers watch the film, along the way, and so they pointed it out to me. Yeah, so I would say that's always a good idea for, I would think most filmmakers do that as they're making the film and editing, get some people to watch it along the way.
Right, 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 to get feedback.
Yeah.
By the way, when you did that with some people and what did you call that?
Oh, what do you mean? What?
Did you call it a feedback screening, or did you call it?
Oh, well, in books, when you write a book and you get independent readers to read it before you're finished, you say, "Oh, I've done." So I just called it independent viewers, it's thinking of from the book.
Aha, right, 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 right. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Nice.
Yeah. And
Independent viewers.
yeah. Yeah, and they gave me some good feedback. And that was really helpful.
So, so you've gathered all these fabulous people. They all have something to say. What do you think are a couple of the messages that are really important that come out in the film?
Uh-huh. Well, besides the great interview subjects, I've had some great archival footage, and I have 4 different speeches from Franklin Roosevelt in the film, and one of the archival footage I have is from a speech he gave right before his reelection in 1936. I think it was the last public speech he gave, and the election was perhaps just a couple of days. And it's a famous speech where he said, "I welcome their hatred," and he said, there's government by financial interests are no different than government by organized mob, and that never before in American history have all these people been united in their hatred for someone. And he said, "I welcome their hatred," and the applause was really strong. Um, so the message and in the final aspect of the film, I tie it all together and I show this is how we can fix things is that if you have leaders and the people, citizens who realize that a country has been captured by financial wealthy interests, as we are again right now, if we have leaders who are willing to stand up to them and welcome their hatred, they will be stopped. And so at the end of the film, as the final segments of the film, I show Roosevelt's what the results of Roosevelt's reelection in 1936, and I show that well, he won in a one of the greatest landslides in American history. He had 523 electoral votes to 8 for his opponent. Then I show the map, and the entire country is blue. And then it's just Vermont and Maine that voted for his opponent. And his opponent was Alf Landon, the governor of Kansas, and even Kansas voted for Roosevelt. So his policies were um, so favorable to people that there was nothing stopping that, nothing stopping people from going against him, and because he did things that helped people, and as I show in the film, Trump talked a good game, like in 2016. I show one of his campaign ads from 2016, and he talked a good game. We're going to fix this, stop the wealthy elite who are screwing the country, and we're going to have a country for the people, run by you. And and I showed the reasoning and I help people understand how that came to be. So one of the screenings I had, a woman, and I always have a question and answer after, a woman afterwards said, "Oh, I became a Trump supporter for a second." And no, I get it now.
Uh-huh. What the messaging was that worked with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
I don't think much of Trump, but if there's one thing he is great at, it's marketing.
yeah, I mean that's
He
really
is just great.
that's always been his gift, the master salesman, the master con man.
Yeah, he has the ability also to, have his finger on the pulse of what works with people. And unfortunately, a lot of what works is hatred.
Mhm.
In the film, you also talk a lot about, as you mentioned before, that, our anti-democracy world did not begin with Trump and is not going to end with Trump.
Mhm.
And I wondered what you discovered about the nature of American democracy. Obviously, you can tell by my accent that I'm not from here. What are some of the things about American democracy that have made it so susceptible to being dismantled?
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, it's a good question, Joanne. That goes to the root of all our problems. Um, and I try to get as much as I can. As I mentioned, I wrote a book in 2022 that talks about the political and economic things that went on, the flaws that led to our problems. And then I talk about the answers in that book. And so I tried to take as much as I could from the book into the fit to make the film. Um, but we have a number of things. It starts with our Constitution, which is as one of the interview subjects say in the film, um, it's a constitution written by long dead white men, white rich men, and it's not adapted towards the time. And actually, as the film points out, Thomas Jefferson was a believer that the Constitution should be rewritten by every generation. So it's not adaptive to the time. Then we have the originalism theory that has people on the Supreme Court live by, as if they can um, decipher the original intent of what the framers of the Constitution meant. And then you have things like the Electoral College and, the lack of a popular vote for president. You have also what's gone on in the last 15 years. So the three biggest strikes against democracy over the last 15 years I talk about in the film, starting in 2010 with Citizens United, which unleashed unlimited dark money into the political system. And also in 2010 was the beginning of the Republican, what was called the Red Map Project, which was the redistricting majority project, which basically created the radical gerrymandering, where they carved states out to make sure they had a majority. And then in the last of the big blows, um, was 2013, when the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was eviscerated, and states no longer had to get federal approval before they manipulated the Voting Rights Act. So it led to massive levels of voter suppression that we see now. Um, so all those things just have, were really major whammies into the system. And it's just created a very anti-democratic nation.
Do you think that those three blows were carefully crafted by the Republican Party? Or was it more something coming from the billionaire class? Because I'm thinking about their control over the Supreme Court. Or because even with the Supreme Court constantly saying that they're originalists, they're not originalists at all. Even though that was working for a while, I don't think it works anymore. But were those three blows? I mean, clearly the gerrymandering is a Republican effort that's been going on for a long time, dismantling the Voting Rights Act, but is that a sort of general process that the Republican Party is interested in?
Yeah, so it's been a very much a long game. David Daly, who's an interview subject and is in the clip, in the trailer, um, and has written extensively. He used to be the editor-in-chief of Salon magazine. Now he's written a number of books. He's written extensively on this uh, whole continuum that's happened. But his last book is called that came out last summer is called, if I get the title right, Anti-Democratic, the 50-year right-wing plot to destroy American democracy or control American elections. So it's been a long game. Many people smarter than me have traced the beginnings. I mean, it goes way back, even you could say to the beginning of the American founding. And as I talk about in the film, because excluding women, people of color, just mainly white property owners had the right to vote. Senators were not elected, all that. Um, but the Republican long game started right around the very beginning, about more than a little over 50 years ago, when Republicans started realizing corporations are not should be the central focus of our government, of our economy, and we need deregulation. We need to cut taxes. We need to undo everything from the New Deal, from Roosevelt's time through the late 1970s was the most prosperous period in in America for all classes of people. There were limits on the wealth inequality. Um, because of the New Deal policies and taxation rates. And it was a very prosperous time overall. And,
Right.
but except Republicans from Roosevelt, they fought Roosevelt when he was president, and they kept
Right.
fighting. And but back then it was an extreme level of Republicans, because Eisenhower, who was a Republican president for 8 years, he kept the New Deal going. And even Nixon, as fanatical and zealous as he was, kept the New Deal policies going. But it wasn't until Reagan. But in the 70s, everything was starting to incubate, and then Reagan brought the whole New Deal down and really changed everything.
Do you think that that Republicans really want to see the end of democracy? Because it looks that way to me. It looks as though they've decided that democracy is not the path they want to choose. Do you think that's accurate?
Well, they have been various quotes in that regard, and they'll say things like America is not a democracy, it's a republic. But
Republic,
that's just play on words, because America is a democratic republic, a constitutional republic.
Yes.
Well, they feel here's the thing, the phrase has been the tyranny of the minority. And so that's another flaw in the American democratic system, is that it's possible for a minority to rule the country. I mean, not a racial minority, just a political minority. And so the United States is not a right-wing country, but they've grabbed this peculiar brand of political viewpoint, has grabbed the levers of power in all ways through manipulating the process, and they have their own ends in mind. There's partly this religious fanaticism,
right,
and also the oligarchic control, and has been pointed out by numerous authors, then there's the tech oligarchy. So it's been pointed out, especially for the wealth class, wherever their wealth is made, democracy can get in the way of their wealth accumulation, because if you give people if you give the majority the rights to vote, they will do everything they can to restrain the wealth, as Roosevelt did. So so I have a quote from at the end of the film, towards the end of the film, from a woman named Jane Addams, who is the first American woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And she said, the cure for the ails of democracy is more democracy. So that's what I'm getting at, that if we give people more democracy, they will put clamps on the people who are trying to destroy democracy.
Also, I moved back to Florida. I live in Miami now. And when I first came to America in 1984, Miami and Florida was a blue state, right? Miami-Dade was blue, Florida was blue. And, I was very proud of Floridians when I was living in San Francisco, because the second time, I think it was, that Obama won, I was watching in San Francisco, and people in Florida were still standing and waiting to vote, even though the election had been called. Well, that's another thing that chokes me up. The election had been called, but they stood and waited to vote, because we had just been through the whole hanging Chad thing in Florida, and Florida became the epicenter of that debacle, and so I was very proud of Floridians. They stood there and they voted, even though the vote didn't count at that time of night. But now we've become a red state, and sort of a ridiculously red state.
Yeah.
And one of the things here, because of the large populations of people from Cuba and Venezuela, 51% of Miamians are Spanish speaking. It seems to me, and now it seems to be something that has spread to the rest of America, but you just use the word socialist and it's over. There's no further discussion. I put a post in a local, or I replied to a post in a local thing, and I just wrote, I grew up in a democratic socialist country. Can you guess which it is? And people were guessing Finland or different. There's a whole bunch of democratic socialist countries that Americans admire greatly, but you would think that the word socialist is equal to the word demon.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And Americans wouldn't know what a socialist was if it smacked them in the face. But that is a very strange thing to me, to see that everything is socialism. Everything is socialism. Everything is the demon socialism. And so when we talk about Trump's ability to message, sometimes it feels to me as though the right, and I don't think of the right that's in power as being conservatives. They're closer to fascists from my perspective. But it does seem that they have really, really grasped control of the messaging. And I wonder if that was something that you learned about, if there's a way out of the hold that Fox News has on our culture and that authoritarian messaging that seems to work for people.
Yeah, it's just incredible. So at the towards the end of the film, I have another speech by Roosevelt that he gave in 1938, and he was talking about how democracy, that was a very difficult time. Fascism was rising around
Right.
the world, or in Europe and Japan.
Right.
And he talked about how when people are struggling financially, economically, they're prone to the empty promises of a strong man and a dictator. And he said that he was talking about the US, we are a rich country and we can afford to take care of people at home. And so he was basically getting at, this is the answer to all of that, that we take care of people. United States is the world's richest country, but it acts like a poor country. It's not the
Right.
world's richest poor country. So as I said earlier, that when Roosevelt ran for re-election in 1936, he won by such a landslide because he was doing things that really united people together. And I don't have it in the film, but Carl Sandburg, the famous poet, wrote a book of poems in 1936 called The People Yes. And it really was about how happy the people were. And this was a very difficult time in the United States. It was a dark period. The Depression, fascism is rising, pro-Nazi sympathies were rising in the United States. But and I think it was 70% of the media, no, 70% of the media was against Roosevelt when he ran for re-election in 1936.
Wow.
The Republican Party was against him. Wall Street and the banking interests were against him. So they had the control of the media. They were
Right.
slandering him left and right. They called him a fascist. They called him a communist. And
Uh-huh.
so people can see past it if they have
Uh-huh.
a reason. And as I pointed out in the film, but people see the government, they don't trust the government. And it's like 16% of people trust the government now. And the government has not given them reason to. It's just it's taking care of the wealthy interests and not the people.
The people's interest. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. This is great. I can't wait for everybody else to get to see the film. And
Yeah.
when is that going to happen? How does distribution go for a documentary about saving democracy? How does
Yeah.
that look like?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking that question, Joanne. So I finished the film in April and I started screening it. And as I was also thinking about the big picture, how do I get out there? But I needed to see the response. I remember my very first screening, and I did a lot of free screenings. I just wanted people to come. I did it in my town at the public library. We had a capacity crowd of 100 people there. And I joked beforehand. I said, "We got tomatoes in the back if you need to throw tomatoes at me." And I'm sitting, I was really nervous. And then at the end of the film was a standing ovation. So,
Yes.
and as I showed it more, standing, people really enthusiastic. I showed it one college where that was open to anybody, the college community. And after the film, and we had question and answer, one of the history professors came and said to me, "Oh, I learned a lot from that film." So I was like, "Oh."
Fantastic.
So I was pursuing two paths. I was
Well, wait, before you move on. Why do you think crowds are so enthusiastic that they are giving standing ovations? Because
I
that's
think
a lot.
well, the film fulfills two things. Few things. It shows a history because I span history from history, American democracy history from the founding of the country and the writing of the Constitution to our present day and many things in between. Uh, so people were hungry for learning about this. People are very upset about what's going on, and the enthusiasm at the end for the film that I give them hope. I show a way forward too.
Mm.
And I kind of joke, even when I finished the film, I said, "Oh, this film could be outdated by the time I show it," because it was
Right.
like a thrill a minute. It was like every day was another race to the bottom of what's going to happen. Um, yeah, so that's why I think people were, very embracing it
Right.
enthusiastically.
Because it's hard to have hope right now. So
Yeah, it's yeah,
it's hard. Although one
hmm,
night in the middle of the night, a few months ago, I woke up in a panic. This was before I saw your film, but I woke up in a panic. And then it struck me, that all of this hatred is going to ultimately bring people together. It's
yeah,
sustainable. It's not sustainable to live on a steady diet of the drug called hatred.
yeah.
And
It's
people have to find something else.
yeah, it's all out in the open now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So sorry. So go back to, so now what's happening?
Oh, distribution, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I start screening the film and I'm figuring I'm pursuing two paths in terms of distribution. One is standard distribution, trying to get it, picked up by a distributor, and the second is the path that's been outlined by Peter Broderick. If people know Peter Broderick and his talking about hybrid distribution or dynamic distribution, different terms he used. So I actually consulted with him, and I also hired a producer's rep, and Peter Broderick's great and brilliant and has lots of great ideas on what to do. And so I was seeing where I'd go with that. He talked about educational distribution and virtual distribution, through Kinema, and showing it at conferences and having organizations host screenings. Um, and it, but at the same time, he asked me, "Oh, how big's your, do you have a team?" And really, I'm a team of one. Yeah, and also, and I'm not averse to it. And, I still think about it. Do I go that way to some degree? But also, his if I follow everything of his, I'd be kind of working the film for a few years, and I want to make the film, and I want to also still nurture it, but also start thinking about, or not thinking about, because I'm already aware of what I'm going to do next. It's just doing it. So again, I only have so much energy,
That's right.
one person. So then I had the producer's rep, and we waited till July for him to, because I want to do all these screenings, to start putting out distribution offers. So um, got a distribution offer from a company for mostly digital rights, and I have carved out so that I can still do screenings on my own and show to colleges, so they have educational rights. So probably go that way. Um, I say probably because I have their contract just sent to me, and it's some edits. My producer's rep put some edits in, so it's just waiting for my signature to start the process, and then it'll probably be it's in the contract. I think within 6 months it will go live. So I technically I haven't gone public with the film
Right.
a big way, but
But it will. It will.
yeah, and that I could have gone if I followed Peter Broderick fully, and again, he's great. I could have gone through Film Hub to put it up, get it up on some places on streaming and done the educational and virtual. But I want to get it out there in the best way possible.
For sure, for
I
sure.
feel this is a good marriage. Do the digital, with the distributor, and I still have the rights to screen it on.
Yeah. When I work with my documentary clients and actually some of my fiction clients on what you're describing that Peter Broderick talks about is I call it impact campaigns. And
Yeah.
that's you've been doing a very good job on your impact campaign. So what is next? What film are you going to be working on next?
Well, it's another documentary. I mean, I just feel this is the right thing for me.
Of course.
Time.
Of course.
And the title is called "The Revolution Will Be Televised," which is a play on the famous spoken word poem by Gil Scott Heron, which was "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised."
That's one of the only records I ever owned.
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I've been writing a series on Substack. I have a Substack called "The Revolution Will Be Televised." So I'm be writing there um, for a couple months or whatever amount of time. I have a whole series of articles to write. Am writing and posting as because I can't get the mental bandwidth to start thinking about my next film until I sign the contract and
Yeah,
get
yeah,
all
yeah.
the particulars for that.
Right.
So then I'll kind of be wearing the two hats, the film now, the next film, and then I can start fully going. And so maybe by the spring I'll be ready. And it'll help me too when I start contacting interview subjects. I can say, oh, here on Amazon Prime or wherever, that's my film. And that gives me more leverage and gravitas to um, contact people.
Exactly. Contact more fabulous people to have in your next film.
Yeah, yeah.
But it sounds as if it's going to be on similar topics, right? It sounds as if it's going to be on.
Yeah. It's taking it one step further because in hearing feedback from people and watching the film, people just like, what can we do? What do we do?
Right.
So, I just want to go even further because, again, it's not enough to just say, "Oh, Trump's horrible," and and it's all going to be great. It's all going to be la la land again when he's gone because, we need a real change.
This Republican Party has got like cramping irons into everything. It's really
Yeah.
really painful to watch. It's very painful to watch. But yeah, well, Michael, thank you so much for coming in, and I do hope everybody signs up. You can go on to Michael's website, which we put in the chat, and sign up, and then you'll get emails and when the film is coming out, so you can watch it. And I highly recommend it because as we said, I think everybody is looking for some hope, and Michael's film is very, very much something that will give you hope. So I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. And I can't wait to see the next one. Sign that contract so we can get working on the next one.
Thank you. Yeah.
And thank you for all your work to save democracy.
Oh, well, thank you, Joanne.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, thank you for your work, for helping me and inspiring others to speak their truth in whatever way they do.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Emily. Take care. Happy filmmaking, everybody.